Welcome to Backstage Pass with Gail Davis, your invitation into the world of keynote speaking and event planning expertise. Join us as we pull back the curtain and dive into exclusive interviews with speaking industry experts. From seasoned speakers to master event planners, we're here to provide you with the ultimate backstage experience. Get ready to unlock valuable insights, tips, and strategies that will elevate your events and leave your audience inspired. Hello, my name is Gail Davis, and I am your host for Backstage Pass. Today, our guest is Kevin Brown. Kevin grew up in blue-collar Muskegon, Michigan, and worked his way from the front lines of business to the executive boardroom. He helped build the brand Servpro into a $2 billion brand. He is the best-selling author of The Hero Effect and Unleashing Your Hero, and he has spent the last several years traveling the world, challenging people to eliminate ordinary thinking. Here at GDA Speakers, we have booked Kevin 74 times since 2015, which means in 11 years, 74 times. And there's only one reason, or maybe a couple, that continues to happen. Kevin delivers, he reaches audiences' hearts, and he's a pleasure to work with. So welcome to the GDA podcast, Kevin.
Thank you. Boy, it's an honor. I can't believe it's been 11 years. And my beard was brown when we started. And so it's got a few gray hairs now. And you said Muskegon right. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Most people don't get that right. And yeah, what a blessing. 11 years together. I started with you, and we've taken this little story all over the world to some amazing clients, amazing brands that we continue to share it with and use it to transform what they're doing and help them to scale, help them to grow their leaders, help them to build better customer experience. And man, we can't thank you enough for the partnership and believing in what we're doing.
Thank you. I think it's important to start at the beginning of your story because it's such a powerful part of your message. You didn't follow a traditional path to the boardroom. You grew up in Muskegon, and you had these blue-collar roots. And then you worked your way up from frontline of business all the way to the top. Why don't you take us back and share that story?
Yeah, it's an interesting story, and you're right, boy, it wasn't traditional at all. And I'm a proud son of a Navy veteran, and my dad's had two jobs his whole life, United States Navy and the company he spent 37 years with. And my dad's a lunch pail guy, but he's one of the greatest leaders I have ever known. And he believes in that four-letter word called work. And he instilled that in me when I was a little boy. And if you wanted something, you had to go make some money to get it. So we cut grass. I had paper routes, and it was probably my first real business was I had paper routes, and I would get more paper routes, and I'd hire other kids to run those routes. And so we were scaling this information distribution business, and so I grew up in that environment. And like a lot of people, my story took a hard left turn as a teenager, and life got off the rails a little bit, and I ended up leaving school in the 9th grade. I've been homeless more than once, and if not for some leaders who came along and said, look, we can help you right the ship. We can help you rewrite this story. And I'm a big believer that when we enter into somebody's life, we never know what part of the story they're writing. And we never know when somebody walks into our business, into our office, into our life. We don't know that they didn't just get a diagnosis they didn't see coming. We don't know that they didn't just put their 13-year-old kid in rehab, or, they've got problems in their home. And so having that responsibility now as a speaker, author, leader, to help people maybe shape their story a little bit, it's such a great honor, and I'm so grateful, especially for your partnership and allowing us to take this story all over the world.
When you talk about heroes, you're not talking about the kinds that wear capes and have the spotlight on them and they're on marquees, for example.
Right.
You're talking about something much more practical. How do you define the hero effect?
Well, I have to give credit to my bride. I've been married for 30 years to a real life hero who we've raised. She's raised an amazing young man. He has autism. His name's Josh. And if you know anything at all about my story, and I know you do, but for the world out there, we have a young man that we're just super proud of, and he's taught me so much. But my bride, when I started this journey, I was asked to give a speech about heroes, and like a lot of people listening to this, the answer is always yes, and I'll figure it out. I think that's pretty much your philosophy too. Answer's always yes, we'll figure it out. And so this group asked me to talk about heroes. I said yes, and then completely freaked out, had a meltdown because I didn't have a hero speech. And so I remember I went to my bride and I said, "Babe, listen, I've got to give this speech and I don't have a hero speech. And I think I'm going to talk about ordinary people doing extraordinary things." And she was like, "That's great if you want to sound like everybody else." And she said, "Do you really believe that that's the definition of a hero?" And it seemed rhetorical, so I didn't say anything. I just listened. And she
Smart
said,
man.
"Yes, exactly." And she said to me, she said something that was really profound, Gail. She said, "Do you really think anybody was put here to do ordinary things? Do you think anybody was made ordinary?" And that started this conversation. And where we landed on it was heroes aren't ordinary people who do extraordinary things. Heroes are extraordinary people who choose not to be ordinary. And it was that little shift in my thinking that she gave me that changed my entire perspective. To see the extraordinary in other people, to know that we all bring something unique and special to our work. And you're right, being a hero, it's not this big grandiose thing where we're wearing a cape and we say, "Hey, relax everybody, I'm here to save the day." It's really about what Lisa, my bride, was talking about, and that is we're here to serve today. We're here to bring the best of who we are to this moment and pour it into the people in front of us, whether that's our family, a customer, a friend, a stranger, right? To make life a little bit better. At the very core of the hero effect, it's heroes make life better. And man, if there was ever a time in human history when we needed more heroes, I think it's now.
Well, that certainly leads into my next question. It seems to me over the last 27 years that when people start the search for an outside speaker, there's usually some inherent problem they're trying to solve.
Yeah.
So, what would you say your experience has been as you've matched up with an organization? They're bringing you in to speak. Is there a specific problem or a handful of problems they're trying to solve that makes you the fit?
Mhm. Yeah, and it's interesting because coming out of the corporate world, coming out of the franchise world, where I'm a big believer that leadership is just like franchising. We reproduce what we are. We teach people our system, how we do business, how we treat others. What is our operating system? And so, what I see more than anything is help us with culture, Kevin.
Mhm.
Help us with customer engagement. Help us get back to the fundamentals that built our business in the first place. Yes, we're dealing with change, we're dealing with technology, we're dealing with competition. And the truth is, if we didn't have change, if we didn't have crisis, if we didn't have competition, we wouldn't need heroes in the first place. We wouldn't need great leaders. We would all just open our doors and all the business would flood in and we would all have everything that we need and want. But the truth is, that leadership message, that leadership, um, that call to leadership is really what it is. And people are coming to me going, here's the truth about our business. I can go into an organization. Any speaker, thought leader can go into an organization. They can say everything that leadership has been saying, but people receive it differently when we come in.
True.
I call it the best friends parents syndrome. And here's what I mean by that. I remember when Josh was a teenager and we kept telling him he needed to get a job. And, it was like he didn't even hear us. It was like we were speaking a different language. And then one day he came home and he said, "I think I need to get a job." And we're like, "Wow, where'd you get this revelation?" And it was one of his friend's parents who said it. And so we can come into an organization with fresh eyes, fresh perspective, bring our experience from what we've done, and say things in a way that validates what leadership has been saying, and maybe they see it in a different light and they receive it a little bit different.
I believe in the power of the outside message. I know how
Yeah,
important it is.
100%.
So, In our line of work, there are certain buckets kinds of meetings. We were coming off the sales kickoff season where everybody's starting off getting everybody revved up, and we're
Right.
moving into the incentive season where they are awarded with trips and oftentimes gets to take their spouses. And then there's always leadership meetings and management meetings and customer events. Is there a genre of meetings that you feel like you're highly connected to, or do you adjust to those? I mean, what are your thoughts on where you're the best fit?
It's a great question, and especially somebody who hired speakers for more than 20 years
Yeah,
and
we're going to have
planned
to talk about
meetings.
that before we hang up.
Yeah, I bring a unique perspective, I think, because I hired speakers for a lot of years, put meetings to get together for franchise groups. And so, coming up with the theme, coming up with what's the through line? How are we going to bring speakers in to support this? What do the breakout sessions look like? All of those things. And nobody really knows what goes on behind the scenes unless you've lived it. So I was back of house long before I was ever on stage. And so I feel really blessed that I say I'm one of the really last true motivational speakers. And what I mean by that is I grew up on Zig Ziglar and Jim Rohn and Brian Tracy and the great ones. And when I was a teenager and when I was struggling, I was going through the stuff. I had somebody hand me a book. It was called See You at the Top by Zig Ziglar. That book changed my life. That book was a catalyst to start this hunger and this thirst for information and transformation. And so, what we've learned, I'm an old school sales guy. I started out in sales, so sales groups are really, really special to me. But what I've learned is my message transcends role. It transcends industry. We've spoken to literally every industry that you can imagine. You can name any category, and I think it's because truth is transferable. When we really think about the principles of the hero effect, it affects sales, it affects leadership, it affects customer engagement, customer experience, it affects culture building. And we feel really blessed because we can roll up our sleeves and go to work with a client to really plan a meeting that supports their takeaways. It's not cramming my message into their meeting, it's taking our message, our principles, and saying, how do we support the takeaways that are most important to you all? And most importantly, when they leave this conference, that they're taking a little bit more than they showed up with, that they go back and they have something that's actionable. It's not complex. It's not something that they have to think about overly. It's something they can pour immediately into the habits of their people and see the results literally immediately. And so we cross over to a lot of industries and we're really blessed by that.
What's next? I mean, you've talked a lot about the hero effect, and I'm just
Yeah.
curious as you evolve and have spoken to almost all of our clients, what's next for you in terms of speaking, writing, and content?
I built my entire business working with great partners who have great clients and they're invested. You and your team, you're invested in your clients and their success. And that's what I love about our business is that we get to truly invest in these brands and I become customers of the brands and I become, connected to them in ways that are really important to me. So the hero effect keeps revealing itself. I had a gentleman the other day, he said, I've heard you 7 times and I get something different every single time, which
Love
proves
that.
to me that I'm still growing, which I'm super grateful for. But it also proves that we intersect with people at different points in their journey and mine. And so we're constantly growing, constantly deepening that. However, life has given me a new topic over the past year. I went through a health crisis at the end of 2025, had a major surgery, and it was a really eye-opening experience for me. And I told you kind of off camera that I was laying in the hospital in 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was just overwhelmed by this feeling of gratitude and stepping back from my life and looking at the past 11, 12 years that we've been blessed to do this and tell this story and think about the people that have heard this story, how the story has shaped my own family. And as I laid there thinking about this, we have a joke in our family about being the goat. And, I tell everybody that I'm the goat in speaking, but it's not the greatest of all time. It's the most grateful of all time because I'm so grateful for every client, for every stage, every opportunity. And so I'm laying in this hospital bed thinking about gratitude. And when we think about gratitude as leaders, sometimes we think it's kind of that soft skill that we
Mhm.
need to get a journal and get in a quiet moment every morning with coffee and write down the three things we're grateful for. And there's nothing wrong with that. I promise you there's nothing wrong with that. But we tend to do that out of obligation, right? I should feel grateful for my life or the people in it. And what came out of that moment for me was this one line. And this is first it's ever been broadcast. This is the first anybody's hearing it. So here's the line. If it matters, prove it. If
Good.
your family matters to you, prove it. If your business matters, if your team, if your customers, if it matters, prove it. And so I laid there thinking about this, not knowing how much time any of us have. But when life becomes finite, gratitude became super intense for me, and I felt this overwhelming sense of urgency to prove to everybody in my life that matters, to prove it. And so that's the next iteration of our
Is there a
journey.
new book coming?
Yeah, it's going to be called Intense Gratitude. If it matters, prove it. And really picking up where the hero effect left off, talking about what my mentor did to me. My mentor handed me a piece of paper, and on that piece of paper it said, "Nothing changed, I changed, everything changed." And so often in life, we think we need something else. We think we need someone else. We think we need more tools, more stuff. And you and I both know we can take that yellow pad, and if we just ask really good questions and listen to the answers, we can find solutions to not only our problems, but the problems our clients are facing, our team is facing. And it's really never been more complicated than that. And the last thing I'll leave you with, this is also brand new. I think if we will master the fundamentals of our craft, whether it's speaking, everybody has an audience, whether it's one or 1,000, we all have an audience. And if we will master our craft of leadership, of communication, of connection, when we master the fundamentals, the reason we admire the great ones, the true GOATs, the greatest of all time in any sport, any endeavor, is because they mastered the fundamentals so well that their talent shows up out of respect.
Ooh, that's good. That's good. If someone is listening and they would really like to step into their own hero effect starting today,
Mhm.
what are some things that they could do immediately to step into that?
Okay, I got something else for you. It's brand new. All right,
Oh,
so
what
here we
is?
go. I'm spilling it all out on Gail Davis right here, podcast. Here we go. Backstage. This is really backstage stuff. So I was working with a client recently, and they had a theme around elite performance. And so I shared four ideas with them, and it was built around the word reps. Because we hear the great ones doing the reps, right?
Put in
Getting
the
in the
reps.
gym, doing
Yeah.
the reps when nobody's watching. And so reps stands for reach for something that you can't touch right now. In other words, what is that vision? What is that thing? There's always another level. No matter how big we become, no matter how great we are, no matter how big our business is, you do 1 million, I'll show you somebody doing 100 million. You do 100 million, I'll show you somebody doing 1 billion. You're doing 1 billion, I'll introduce you to Elon Musk, right? I mean, it's like there's always another level. And so reach for something that you can't touch right now. The next thing is expand your capacity, right? Expand your capacity. We talk about scaling our business, but you can't scale a business until you scale your leadership. What do I need to do to expand my capacity? What books do I need to read? What do I need to listen to? I always have a word of the year. And my word this year, what if your one word was the word one? What if it was just the word one? And I hear all these people talking about, I'm going to read 100 books this year. Why don't you just read one and master the content? What if you just developed one new skill that expanded your capacity? What if you gained one new habit that changed your health or changed your psyche, your mental capacity? So expand your capacity. The P is prepare. Prepare for every game like it's your last game. Prepare for every meeting. Prepare for everything that you're doing. And then the S is serve the team. Right? The great ones not only perform at a high level, but they make everyone around them better. So if you want to be a hero, just do your reps.
Kevin, what a mic drop moment. I mean, I've written it down right here. If it matters, prove it and put in the reps.
Yeah.
And I thank you for your time. I thank you for this inspiration. I thank you for the great work you do for our clients.
Yeah.
And I just feel like this has just been a great reminder that it isn't about your position, but it's about your intention and it's about your ownership. And it's been very inspiring.
And not only that, Gail, not forgetting the people who helped us get there, right? Always
Yeah.
remembering who helped us get there. And you all have been such a big part of my story and what you all do for folks like me and for your clients. It's truly remarkable.
Oh, thank you so much. If you are a planner that's out there listening and you've been intrigued with this message and you want your audience to own moments that matter and you want to build a culture of everyday heroes, please reach out to us and let us bring Kevin Brown in to your next event. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gail.
Thank you for joining us on Backstage Pass with Gail Davis. Tune in for more exclusive interviews and pro tips to elevate your events. Don't forget to subscribe and share your thoughts with us. We'll catch you next time behind the curtain on Backstage Pass.